Chad's online. Chad's watching this. He's online.
We need to see him.
Does it now? We need to ask him if he has video capabilities.
Yours needs to turn it on. Printer. Okay. Good evening and welcome to the Grant County Board of Zoning Appeals meeting for June 1st, 2026. If you would, please rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Please be seated. Mr. Glancy, would you give us a roll call vote for attendance?
Michael Duke,
Present.
Andy Ellis, here. Lois Jones,
Here.
Chad Kirkpatrick's online.
We have to see him.
I'll just make a note online. We'll see if we get his vote. I sent him a text.
There he is now.
Oh, there we go.
Yeah.
Okay,
All right, very good, Chad.
fabulous. We're there, okay. Sandra Rowan, Wilbur Webb,
Here.
Ed Hartman.
Here.
He's riding in the tractor.
Yeah. Dedication.
Multitasking.
Okay, next on the agenda is the approval of minutes for May 4th, 2026.
If I just may ask a procedural question, Mr. Hartman.
Sure.
As we had no petitions heard at last meeting, I would understand why there is nothing there, but as we had a presentation, would it be appropriate to make note in minutes of that discussion that we had with Miller and Associates?
Yes, I had the same thought here. I had a note of add Jack Heimlich update from Jason Miller to the minutes. Are there any other additions and corrections?
You want me to make that update and approve it next meeting? That's what I suggest.
Yes, that'd be good. Okay, next on the agenda is old business. Do we have an update for Jack Heimlich docket 018-25?
I'd like to speak. I don't know if that's where I would go or if it would be at the public comment. I'm not sure if that would be for the adjacent residences or if that's.
Who's talking? We can't hear you. You can come up to that podium.
Okay, I think we'll do yours right at public comment time. I think that makes the most sense for us right now. Don't see anyone here from representing Jack Heimlich. So we'll move on to new business. 5.1 docket 018-26, new cell tower, special exception, County Road South 700 East. Will the petitioner please come to the podium?
Mr. President?
Yes.
Could you make a motion or something to silence our phones?
Yes. If you would, please silence your cell phones. Thank you.
And then could you walk through the process?
Yes.
How many minutes?
Our process here is that you will be first to speak and you will have 15 minutes to give us the petition, why you want this, and the summary of it. And then the opposition will have up to 25 minutes to present their side. After that, you will have up to 10 minutes to rebut the opposition's points. That's the process. And if you would, state your name and address.
Okay. My name is Brett Blackers. I'm here representing Horvath Communications and Verizon Wireless. And my office address is 500 East 96th Street, Indianapolis, Indiana. So Verizon Wireless has obviously the wireless carrier in the area nationwide. And they have some service gaps and some poor outdoor, indoor locations. You know, obviously this is more of a rural area and all the wireless carriers have always taken care of the main municipalities, the highly density traffic areas, interstates, and so forth. Those are good. Now they have to go out and get better coverage for the rural areas. All the carriers are doing this. So they contacted Horvath Communications to see about building them a built-to-suit site for them. We have a desired area because they have coverage gaps that are lower down towards the east, or not east, but west of Upland, in between Upland and I-69. Our first thing that we do is we look for co-location requirements, not actually requirements, but options. So there was a tower west of I-69, and then the Grant County Communications Towers that is northeast of the desired area. Now, we had RF engineers look at these spots, and they have come where those are too far. One, the Grant County Tower is too far north to cover the service gaps that they have down south, west of Upland and I-69. The tower that's west of I-69, I think it's Venture Tower, it is too close to an existing site where Verizon is already currently at. Now my packet shows you existing towers, where they are, and I have identified where Verizon is already currently at. They're at one location that's just south of, I guess, Taylor University, and then there's one south of Gas City, and there's one basically on the east side of Gas City and one just south of Gas City. So we have a desired area that we have to try to look to improve these gaps. So we came up with this kind of rural area, and we thought we had found a really good spot for it. It's away from a lot of residential areas. We kind of tuck it back, located close to the railroad tracks. This is a rural area, all mostly vacant lots across the north of the railroad tracks, and around that site there are some residents that are just south of that area. Now, I've seen everybody here, okay? There's Mr. Clancy, he's got his cell phones. You guys, everybody has cell phones. Everybody wants cell phones. Now, cell phones aren't considered essential necessity, but in all, they really are, because 90 or 75% of residents do not have landlines anymore. So, as far as safety for your community, you need service. The schools are all going to iPads. People are working remotely now. These are essential things, especially for the first responders, because 90 to 95% of 911 calls come from cell phones, not landlines. So we're trying to cover these low areas, these service gaps for the community. They have FCC license that they're mandated to try to provide the best services possible for these areas for their license frequencies that they buy. This is a good thing. I don't think it's a bad thing. They need to cover these gaps. You're going to see these all over the place. 5G, higher frequency bands. They don't go out as far as the old systems do. So more and more towers, more and more sites are going to be developed. They have better speeds, faster downloads, more reliable service. And that's what Verizon is trying to do for this site, to provide more reliable service to your constituents in the rural areas, kind of linking those towers. Plus, they have an overload capacity for their existing sites up around Gas City. They're trying to offload those. The more people that use them, and there are some other coverage areas that they can have, that's where you get your drop calls, your failed signals, your lack of service. So they're trying to offload the overcapacity that they have at those existing sites. I hear people talk about health concerns. I hear people talk about property values. Cell towers do not drop your property values. They actually, when people go out and buy a house, one of their first things that they do, they check what the service is at that house. That is a huge thing for people, for buyers. They need cell service. Everybody has them, especially if they have kids, because their kids are working remotely, doing homework on their iPads that require wireless service. Health issues. There's talk about health issues. Concerns about that. The actual towers themselves emit less RF frequencies than actually the FCC regulates as human exposure. Acceptable human exposure, 1,000 times less. And by the time these frequencies hit the ground, your microwave has more impact on RF frequencies, impact on radiation. Your phone that you put up to your ears has more radiation, RF emissions than these signals do when they hit you, when it hits the ground. And it's not, if the tower's right there, it spans out for miles. Maybe like with the 5G, a mile and a half, mile for great service, and you'll get spanned out limited service after that. People are coming. I mean, your community's growing. Your constituents are going to need cell service. Your first responders are going to need cell service. They need to help get those in place so they can get these service. If something happens to somebody, you want to have cell service to be able to call your 911, to be able to call the first responders. Like I said, 75% of people don't have landlines anymore. I don't, my brother doesn't, my parents don't. There's a lot of them don't. I guess, and then this is an essential need, basically, and it's becoming an essential need. We do respectfully request that you guys approve this special exception request for the cell tower. I have some pamphlets here that kind of show you health concerns, property values, related items of how much RF emissions they release out there or that you're exposed to. If you would like to see those, I can leave these here at the table. If you guys have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Okay, we'll do the questions after you finish your last one. So if you're done with your initial presentation, we'll move on to if there's any opposition here.
Okay.
Do you have the sheets available for what you just stated, right
Yeah,
here?
they're in my packet here.
You can give those to Mr. Clancy.
You just walk up, or you call it?
How do you choose the rebuttal?
What's that?
I just was curious about, you gave a time limit for the rebuttal, so I wanted to know how we get to choose the order. of
Yes,
who
for,
gets to speak.
for the opposition,
Yes.
you'll have up to 25 minutes.
All of us?
And all of you that want to speak
Okay.
can come up one at a time and sign in.
So these are property value
Yes.
for surrounding areas.
Do we ask for who's in favor of
These
the
are-
petition first or negative comments?
I'll ask him that. Is there anyone else here that wants to speak
Wireless and
in favor
rural
of
health
this
organization.
presentation? Did you bring anyone else with you that would want to speak in favor of this? Or is there anyone here who wants to speak in favor of this? How much time's left?
I think there's a gentleman.
We're at 10 minutes and 34 seconds,
So you got about 4 minutes.
4.5 minutes.
Okay.
Gentleman in the back row, maybe.
Is there anyone here who wants to speak in favor of this petition?
I want to speak neither in favor or opposition, so it's not really, I don't know where to talk.
We haven't had that before. We're willing to put you in someplace. How about at the end?
That's fine.
Okay. Okay.
And, I'm sorry. And I know that we requested this, but this should be presented to the folks 3 days prior to the
Yes.
meeting.
Yeah. And so we won't have really time to look at this right now, probably. So we'll keep moving on. Thank you. Yes, if you would state your name, and I assume you put your address down for the record.
I did, yes. My name is Kari Olson. I live at 5635 South, 700 East, Gas City. We are directly adjacent to the proposed project. I'm going to be speaking on behalf of my husband, Stephen Olson. He serves as the Vice President of Business and Finance at Taylor University and is out of town on university business. And so what I'd like to do is just read his letter for the record that he sent to you several days in advance, if that is okay. Dear members of the Grant County Area Planning Commission, I'm sending this letter to express my serious concerns about the request for Horvath Communications to receive approval of a special exception that would allow Horvath Communications to construct a commercial wireless communications facility as outlined in the notice dated May 15, 2026. A 260-foot tower with a 10-foot lightning rod for a total of 270 feet. If approved, this tower would be located on the parcel directly adjacent to the two parcels my family owns. My in-laws, Don and Judy Knutson, own the parcel immediately south of the proposal 5613 South. And my wife, which is myself, Kari, and I own the parcel immediately south of my in-laws. If this tower is allowed to be constructed on this site, it will most assuredly have a detrimental effect on our property values. Please know that I am a strong supporter of growth, change, and economic development in my role as Chief Financial Officer at Taylor University. I actively support efforts to revitalize our town, bring needed economic growth to our county, and enhance the well-being of residents. However, changes that directly and negatively impact the financial conditions of individuals, while other individuals and corporations' profit, do not represent this type of win-win situation that will promote positive community and individual flourishing. A simple internet search, which I just did as I sat here, provides evidence that cell towers located next to neighborhoods and homes result in significant devaluation of property values. Americans have long been told that one way to financial freedom is through home ownership, and we are proud of the house we built on our property. Quite frankly, the investment we have made in these parcels and homes has consumed much of our available resources. And if the cell tower is allowed to be constructed on this site, a significant amount of what we have built will be lost forever, while other individuals and corporations stand to gain. This is not fair and would not bring a positive outcome. It would bring economic harm to my family. Ask yourself, would I like a structure like this located close to my home or my neighborhood? I think any reasonable person would have the same answer. No. These types of towers are most often located along highways or major roadways or in industrial and commercial areas. I believe that if a tower is technically necessary, which assumes co-location of an existing tower is not currently possible, that there are likely many more suitable sites that would also fit the conditions and are in the area detailed in the proposal. Based on consultations with rural properties, properties experts, we believe that our two parcels that our families own currently are valued at $1.33 million. Our research indicates the close proximity of a tower, such as described in this proposal, will lower our property values by 10 to 30%. This represents a financial loss of $133,000 to $399,000 for our families. This would be a massive hit to any family, and we ask you to consider the impact as you make this decision. In addition to the economic impact, there are other important considerations, including noise and site pollution. Our area is a rural community, and a structure as described in the proposal would certainly add noise to this otherwise quiet location. The rural and agricultural sightliness would be impacted by the structure itself during the day and the top-mounted strobe light during the night. Again, there are likely many other suitable sites that can accommodate this tower and where these types of issues would not be problematic. As noted earlier, growth, change, and economic development are important to me and my family, and we are certainly supportive of bringing the necessary improvements to Grant County. However, it is not right to harm our families in the process. If for some reason the Board of Zoning Appeals believe it's necessary to approve this special exception, we believe that we are entitled to be appropriately compensated due to the harm that will be inflicted upon us. There are likely various options for how we could be properly compensated, and I would be happy to have these discussions with the board, the Area Planning Commission, and any other entities involved. And he apologizes for not being here with his meeting. Also, if the board does not grant a special exception in addition to the appropriate compensation, the base of the tower and related equipment should be required to have much more substantial screening than indicated. Quite frankly, the ugly chain link fence, and I'm familiar with these areas described in the proposal as well. Plantings that will grow at least as high as the fence within 2 to 3 year periods should be required and installed and maintained. To be clear, this would not address our other concerns, but should be a part of any potential approval. I'm grateful that you have listened to our concerns, and I'm hopeful that you will appropriately decide not to grant the special exception that is being requested by Horvath Communications. Sincerely, Stephen Olson.
Is there anyone else that would like to speak in opposition?
Nobody else on there?
Yeah, there's 3 of us.
There's lots of people.
Okay,
More of us.
Gosh.
you'll want to come right away as each speaker ends so that you get your time in.
Good evening. My name is Molly Early. I actually live at 1717 Summerfield Drive in Marion, but I grew up directly down the road from this area. So I have concerns as my childhood home is still over there. So here's a couple of things that I would like to note as I'm signing in here. I'm just going to call a spade a spade. The audacity of someone from the big city coming to our rural community, not knowing the exactness and the numbers that our community represents. A quick Google search can actually tell you that the population of Grant County has declined by 3% over the last 10 years per year. So our community actually is not growing, we're declining. Therefore, that statement in the presentation, not exactly true. The other audacity that I feel is that the property values don't decline and that people search for cell service when they search for a home. Personally, when I was searching for my home, the first thing I wanted to make sure of is that I wasn't near something that was extra large, extra noisy, electrical towers, cell phone towers, because I didn't want to hear the constant hums, nor did I want to experience the unsightliness of those. So I think I could speak for many homeowners that when we're searching for homes, especially in the rural county areas, we're not looking for industry right next to us. There's a reason that we want to move to the rural communities on that side of it. So there's just a couple of points directly. The noise, the humming, I believe our current county ordinances, in discussing this with the data center ordinance, we've been talking about the decibel amounts, and at 55 decibels or less, that cell phone tower is going to permit a hum of around 50 or so decibels at a constant 24-hour pace from its cooling fans, because a 5G tower emits an enormous amount of heat. So from a cooling standpoint, so we have those issues coming back into play. Those are just a few of the issues that I would see with this. Yes, we are all addicted to our phones. Yes, many of us don't have landlines anymore. Yes, all of those things. However, I also see a surge in this community as well as across the state and the nation to go back to things that are a little more simpler, like a landline, like less cell phone usage, getting rid of them out of the community schools, all of those things, because the dopamine amount that a child receives off of a cell phone or a device is like giving them a shot of heroin. So those statements made in the pro portion of rezoning this land to be built, I highly disagree with. And I think that this board should really look into the information that's been provided them, and maybe even table this so you have all of the information and have it reviewed. Thank you.
Is there anyone else? Please come up. How much time's remaining?
We've used 9 minutes and 40 seconds.
Okay.
Are you Todd Glancy?
Yes.
I'm Tammy Woods.
Hello.
I wrote a letter to you. Do you have it?
And they all have it also.
You all have it, but I don't have it.
Oh. Would you like to read the letter?
I would like to read my letter, please. Thank you.
Correct letter, right?
Yes.
All right.
That's my writing. Okay, I'm Tammy Woods. I live across the field behind the Olsons and Knudsons. I have, in regards to the notice of the public hearing of the docket, and the parcel number 270905-300-07.002-011. We are adjacent property owners, and we are strongly against this 270-foot tower, high commercial tower. We have researched that there is 8 to 10 of these towers less than a mile of us now. Being in our backyard would be too overbearing in height. We also have a lake we go back to on our property next to the parcel. We go back to relax and fish and enjoy our time on our property. We don't want an obstruction of this tower to take away from us enjoying our country lifestyle on our property. If we wanted to see these towers, we would have stayed in the city. The other homes in this area, one, a brand new build, and a restored home also with a large lake, I'm sure it would take value away from their properties, as well as ours. Also, the emergency helicopter routes throughout there to land at the Marion Health East ER. Again, we are not for this tower. We do not want to look out to a view of this 270-foot tower from our porches or our lake. This would take away so much of our value and country scenery we enjoy. Tammy Woods. That's my letter. Thank you. Thank you.
We're at 12 minutes, 30 seconds. Halfway.
You start it when I talk.
It's just rolling.
Okay. Well, first of all, thank you for serving as you do on the board. I know you've got busy schedules, so I appreciate your giving your time because I know my time is valuable too. Please know that I prayed for you, even though I've never met you, but I prayed for good judgment, discernment, and for the results of this meeting. My name is Judith Knudsen. My husband and I, our daughter's family, live next to the proposed cell tower. As I looked at the height and magnitude of this, I couldn't help as I was thinking about it, of David and Goliath. You know, there's big giant corporation and then there's us little guys. He only used 3 small stones to defeat it, but with God's power. We don't have it, but let me try to summarize my concerns. Now, mine I have not left to all the intricacies of everybody else's scientific things. Mine's more of a personal type of a thing. We moved to this rural setting because it wasn't industrial. It was great. We have 28 acres between us, an 8-acre lake, and actually it's a park. And I know in one of the zoning things that paper has, that you guys have for land usage, it talked about that you couldn't build a cell tower if it was interfering with a public park or vista. Well, we really have a park and we use it. Many people come to use it. We've had college students, had hundreds there to enjoy this beautiful park facility. And so maybe that's a consideration. I have concern for safety. Tornadoes are in the area, right? We've got them all over. Well, our property, the house that is on our property that got torn down was hit by a tornado. Well, that's pretty close to this big cell tower, all right? So it has impacted that and it's come down and we have had to build onto that. So I ask questions as many ask. Personally, think of yourself. Would you like this next to your property? Linking light and all the mechanics that go with it. And I really ask if you all would consider an area along a highway that doesn't interfere with the residential area of a community. We don't want to lose that. And next, off the cuff, this is another question. A more important question. You have a lot of decisions to make in your life. But I want to ask you, because I'm up here and I may never see you again, how is your relationship with God? You're investigating all this information about a cell tower. Take time to investigate God's word. He loves you, has a plan for your life as he has for mine. And so I'm trusting that you will or have made the most important decision of your life. Because in the scheme of things, a cell tower isn't the important thing when we end our life together. So thank you very much. I appreciate your letting me share my thoughts and my concern because I love Jesus. And the most important thing I can give to anybody is to share that he loves you, forgives your sins, and he wants you to have that too. So that's why I'm here. That's the only reason this meeting is taking place. God bless.
My name is Terry Davis. My wife and I, Beth, own the first house north of this proposed cell tower, and we're very much opposed to it. Several years ago, they tried to put one in the field right next to our house, and we came in and expressed our concerns, and you did not allow that one to be put in, and I would ask you to do the same here. There's probably a quarter of a mile between our house and the railroad tracks north of where the field is, just on the south side of the railroad tracks for this tower. I'm the treasurer for the Upland Lions Club, and we have 40 acres on the east side of Upland, and we recently were contacted about putting a tower on our property there. And after the research that I've gone through and chatting with the members of the club, that's not going to happen, ever. We have concerns about radiation. Some of the research I read said that they recommend a minimum of 500 meters between those towers and houses. And as the generations of the signals get more like 4 to 5 and 5 to 6, the signals get stronger. They don't get weaker. So I'm concerned about radiation there. Property value, what I read, one realtors group that covered 11 states in the District of Columbia said that you'll see up to a 20% decrease in the value of your property if these are within sight or near your property. Verizon, we had Verizon cellular service in our area for a long time. We still do. We don't use it anymore because of cost. My wife and my family switched to a different carrier, but we never had any trouble where we live. So needing to put a tower there to help cover a dead spot, I don't think is completely accurate. We have good coverage where we were at when we were Verizon, still do with the other service, and they use the same towers. I also have a little bit of a concern. My research found that the buildings that they use for those, most of them have battery backup or generators in them. And Verizon had a problem, according to an article, it cost them a fair amount of money that they weren't servicing those properly and they weren't being maintained correctly. And the battery started to leak. We're on a well. So I have concerns about anything coming out of that and getting into our well system or the water table. So I think that's pretty much all the concerns I want to share with you, but we're very much opposed to it. It's just right next to our house. Thank you.
We're right at 20 minutes.
How much time do I have?
5 minutes.
5 minutes.
That's really not very fair, you know. We're talking about our livelihood, and you're giving us only 25 minutes to talk about it. But I'll try to do my best. I know there's a 3-day limit as far as giving stuff out, but I'll pass these around. Take them as you will. I didn't realize there was a time limit like that. I wanted you to take a look at what we're dealing with as far as our property goes. You don't have to have it as an official document if you don't want to. My name is Don Knudsen. I live at 5613 South 700th Street in the east in Gas City. My property is directly adjoins or is located immediately adjacent to the site proposed for this 270-foot tower. I appreciate the opportunity to talk to you tonight, and I know you guys put out time for this, and I appreciate that. I am 83 years old. I don't need this kind of stuff in my life at this point in time. I've worked very hard during my life. I am a veteran. I survived Vietnam. I'm 100% disabled as a result of that, and still we have this kind of thing going on. I've worked very hard for what we have. It's taken a long time to put together the money and the resources necessary for the property that we're at. And we love it. If you look at the pictures, you'll see what it is. It's taken us 8 years to get it into the position that it's at. I don't want to steal your pen. But we love it. It's almost a paradise on earth, and my wife mentioned it's like a park. The application for cell tower is approved. Our future will be directly affected. It's my livelihood. I'm old. When you get old to my age, you guys aren't close. Start thinking about end times. I'm in my twilight years. My heart is the disability that I received as a result of my service in Vietnam. Could go anytime. I have to think in terms of my wife and the care that we give to each other. And this is part of it. Our future is tied up in our property. I don't have a whole lot of money, but I've got a lot of property. People refer to that as being property poor. I am. I'm not opposed to cell phones, to any of the technology we experience. And obviously, we want to have our emergency contacts available. I happen to have a Verizon phone. I get 2 bars at our house. We don't need another cell phone tower right there. Now, I've got nothing against you, but I'll bet you've given that same presentation a dozen times to different town boards. You're doing your job and you do it fairly well. But this is personal. This is really personal. Unlike most people involved in this application, I will live with the consequences of this decision for the rest of my days. Because if it does go through, I'm not going to be able to afford to go anywhere else. And if approved, the tower will not simply be a structure somewhere in the distance. It's going to be something I see every time I get on my mower, every time I go outside, and it'll be there. When my family chose to live here, we invested in a rural residential setting. We chose open views, quiet surroundings, agricultural land, and the character that makes this area of Grant County unique. We relied on the current zoning of residential agricultural. That's what it's supposed to be. We did not choose to live next to a structure that is approximately as tall as a 25-story building. We're in Grant County. The impact on neighboring property owners is not just theoretical. It's immediate and it's personal. Every day when I look out my window, work on my property, spend time outdoors, or host family and friends, the most prominent feature of the landscape will be a 270-foot ugly tower. I haven't seen a pretty one yet. That change cannot be screened by landscaping. No row of trees can hide the structure of this kind of magnitude. The applicant may describe the visual impact as minimal, although he didn't touch on that. But the perspective of those who live next door, the impact is anything but minimal. There's a concern that the applicant engineered the structure to endure 107 mile/hour winds. I've gone through the whole thing. I'm not an engineer, so there's a lot of stuff I don't understand, but I did understand that the tower is supposed to withstand 107 mile/hour winds. We know that Grant County has tornadoes. We have tornadoes that range from E1 to E4 that have gone through our area. That's talking about 86 miles per hour to almost 200 miles per hour. The tornado that took down our place was at E1, and that goes up to 110, so they're not quite up to that even. So I don't know what that means, but we do know that tornadoes throw debris all over. I'm also concerned the applicant has not demonstrated that this specific location is the least intrusive alternative available. Before imposing this burden on neighborhood landowners, I believe the applicant needs to be required to prove why co-location opportunities are unavailable, why other locations would not accomplish the same objective with fewer impact on nearby homes. I respectfully submit that the burden of proof should remain on the applicant and not on us residents that live nearby. As a property owner, I am concerned about the effect this proposal may have on the future marketability and desirability of my property. A web search found nothing positive, and I invite you all to try that. See if you can find positive comments about putting in the cell tower next door. It indicated that there could be a potential loss of value ranging from 10% to as much as 30%. You've heard some of this before, and you've seen these figures in the letter I submitted earlier. That's for those who are in close proximity to the cell tower. I'm almost done. Also, a survey conducted by the National Institute for Science, Law, and Public Policy indicated an overwhelming majority of responses, 94%, stated that the existence of nearby cell towers and antennas would have a negative impact on their interest in a property and the price that they would be willing to pay. That's a huge number. Furthermore, 79% of respondents asserted that they would never purchase or rent a property located within a few blocks of a cell tower or antenna under any circumstances. This is a survey that was done, legitimate. For many families, purchasing a home is the largest investment they will ever make. Certainly is ours. Regardless of what studies may say in general terms, common sense tells us that some prospective buyers are going to hesitate before they purchase a home immediately next to a cell tower. And I'll bet none of you live next to a cell tower voluntarily. Let me bring to your attention a portion of the zoning ordinance, at the number 153.100A2, where it states, the use or value of the area subject to the property included in the variance will not be adversely affected. Should this application be approved, I guarantee my family will be adversely affected in many different ways. The board's not being asked to decide whether telecommunication towers are useful. The board is being asked whether this tower at this height in this location is compatible with the surrounding area and whether the impacts on the neighboring properties have been minimized. I lost my last page. In closing, if for some reason you decide that this should be approved, there should be several things that take place. Nobody living in the area should come out short on this. We should not be paying for this cell tower. My understanding is that the total cost of the cell tower is going to be in the neighborhood of $275,000. I'm sure the company is not doing that just to use money up. They're going to be making a profit from that. My daughter mentioned the figures that we were given by our realtor as far as what the value on our corporate property is. We would be losing potentially more than what the cost of that cell tower is. So this is something that's important. What I'd suggest is that Verizon, they need to have this place, beyond question. You need to buy our place and buy it at our suggested retail price. And that is all I have to say for tonight. I thank you for your attention. I hope I didn't go over my 2 minutes.
Is there still time for me?
I'm going to get you in, but he has a chance to rebut.
Actually, I have questions that I hope that you will address in his response. Or,
That's interesting. Well,
Okay, who's he speaking for?
We're speaking.
and you're speaking for yourself.
I'm
but-
speaking for myself,
Yes, but I said we'd bring you in at the end.
but I'm not against it, but part of the speaking is bringing up some topics that I'd like to make sure are brought forth, and I'm hoping that the petitioner might even be able to put some life into it.
Well,
I think you're on the right track where you're
I
doing it.
think we need to stay with what we decided in the beginning, and that we will listen to all your comments, I guarantee you that, okay? And you have, sir, have 10 minutes for a rebuttal.
So these are just one simple copy, right?
Yeah, these
I'll
are
make
just-
copies for everyone.
I'm just gonna take this one thing and go for this kind of talk on Okay, I do appreciate you guys' talk and speaking on, against it, on your concerns. And that's absolutely, that's your option. That's your opportunity to do so.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes,
please make sure that he talks directly to the board and not to the audience.
yeah, please speak to us, please.
All right. So most of the things that I came up here, or that I heard speaking about, were about property values and health concerns. Common radio, I have a sheet up here. Common radio frequency exposures. There's small cells all around the cities, inside the cities, that are less than 40 feet tall. Probably only about 30 feet tall. You guys are walking right underneath them. Don't even know it. This is a macro site, or a macro site outdoors. This is going to be 260 feet tall. The RF emissions on those is minimal. The FCC mandates and says permanent human exposure is up to 1,000. The macro site is 1% of that. So they are operating at 1,000 times less than what the FCC regulates as acceptable human exposure. Your mobile phone is one of the most that you guys use every day and put up to your ears and talk on. Your Wi-Fi has it. Your wireless laptop has it. Push talk walkie-talkies, that's probably one of the highest frequencies. FM and TV remotes, Bluetooth headsets, baby monitors, microwave ovens. And the macro site, the outdoors, are one of the least as far as RF radio frequency exposures. The World Health Organization has done studies on all of these things as far as health concerns. Exposure to RF from mobile phones use does not increase the risk of brain cancer or even prolonged cell phone use, defined as 10 years or longer. They've had plenty of studies for years. They've done the 3G, 4G, 5G. The old frequencies that they used was a stronger RF emission. The 5G is not as strong. Yes, it's a higher frequency band because it's going like up and down a lot more rigorously than the other ones, but the other ones are slow and going, but they have a higher frequency exposure. Property values. This is an analysis of property values. In Hendricks County, which are close to approximately wireless towers, and there's 2 towers, and they're within a quarter of a mile each other. In 1999, you got 1 tower sitting there. There's a bunch of rural areas behind it. There's subdivisions over to the right. 2000, the rural area is starting to get developed. 2001, another tower came in. More subdivisions, more housing units are coming in. 2009, almost the whole entire rural area is covered in subdivisions and houses. Now, for some of these things, these studies have seen, and these comparisons of property values are showing in this Hendricks County from 2012 to 2016, and there's no decrease in these property values, and they're within close proximity of these cell towers. The cell tower actually looks like it's part of the lot. It's one of the lots in this subdivision. And that cell tower was the first one that was built, and the subdivision is still built around it. You guys are familiar with the Telecommunications Act of 1996. You are not allowed to make a judgment as far as your decision on a cell tower due to health concerns or property values. That is part of the Telecommunications Act of 1996. That's mandated by the federal government. We meet you guys' ordinance as far as the special exception use in that district. We meet your setbacks. We provide you with a fall zone letter that's actually designed to collapse within the compound area. It's structurally going to be designed to where it's more structurally sound on the bottom part of the tower than it would be on the top part. So it's designed to buckle and collapse on top of its compound area. This is an unmanned facility, and it does not create noise, pollution, water pollution, or anything like that. This is a growing industry, and we're trying to get your constituents in the surrounding and rural areas access to wireless service. That's what Verizon is trying to do. And they have this coverage gaps. If you look at the propagation maps that I provided in that packet, you're going to see a significant amount of better coverage and service for this area. They're trying to maintain and provide their FCC mandated license to the community. We meet you guys' ordinance. We respectfully request that you guys do approve this special exception application for Board of Ed and Verizon Wireless. I'd be happy to take any questions that you guys have as a board.
What documentation do you have as far as property values go? Do you have something that was done? Studies from wherever?
There's a study, I've got a couple, I got 3 of them. This one is from Hendricks County. This one is from St. Louis County. And this is a program that cell phone towers do not affect property values. That was a study that was done, and it talks about a bunch of different cases with the wireless providers and surrounding areas and how the property values are not affected by that.
And we passed these out, right?
Yeah.
Do you have that?
Yes.
Okay. And the other 2 I only have 1 copy for, so I'll get those to you.
We want to know if the Indiana Board of Realtors, if the Indiana Board of Realtors agrees with this fact that it doesn't lower property value.
You want to know that? I mean,
Yeah.
I haven't contacted the actual Indiana Board of Realtors.
Right, because to me, those people would be the ones that, all these studies that you've done, they would say it would be okay that you put one there. Saying that these people's houses, they mean nothing. So if Verizon is so adamant about put this tower there, I too agree with the fact is buy these people's houses. Has Verizon thought about that? Because they're gonna make money, no matter what. The small guy's not gonna get a penny.
So you're basing this on
No, not,
property values?
well, there's gonna be more, not just that, but that's one of the problems that I think the homeowners are thinking about.
Yeah, say something. I don't know if it's proper.
No, I'm sorry, you can't say anything right now. What's the time here?
We're at 9 minutes, 58 seconds.
Okay, so, all right. That concludes this portion of the public hearing. And if you would, take your seat, and we'll have that one gentleman come up who wanted to make some comments.
You can still ask questions of the parties.
Right.
After this gentleman is.
After he's done, I'm sure.
Good evening. My name is Larry Shipley. I live at 7595 East 600 Southland, Indiana. My property is adjacent to the property of the proposed site. Though I am a licensed professional engineer in the state of Indiana, when it's an RF and ultra wideband, I'm actually speaking not in that capacity, but in the capacity of a homeowner in the near area, just with some questions about the application. I found some things that are just, like I said, I'm neither for or opposed to the petition. It's just that there are some questions that I've had difficulty reconciling, and I'm hoping that maybe some answers can, and maybe we could talk afterwards. Just kind of want to understand. I did take a look at the propagation heat map before and after for the 700 LTE 4G coverage. It does have a marginal improvement, not so much in the area that is listed in the application, but in the area directly north on the north side of the Mississauga River, though other areas do appear to have improvement. One of the things that I kind of had difficulty with is when I read the RF report from Verizon Wireless, it was dated like April 10th, 2025, and referenced another site, Winnemac, Indiana, and I didn't know if that was relevant or if that was maybe boilerplate overwrite or something, so I kind of was curious about that. But then that led me to look at other things, and one of the things that I noticed is that in the application, they require at least this height, this 260 foot with the additional 10 foot for lightning protection. But in order to make room for up to 4 carriers, and I didn't understand, so one, they had to have it that height in order to get, I'll say maybe a marginal improvement south of Mississauga River, but they had to have that height, and yet, to me, it seems like that might not even been the right place to put it. That being said, looking at the radiating elements that's proposed in the package here, they have 3 bands that they're going to be implementing. So the first band, of course, is the LTE, the 700 LTE band, which the heat maps represent. But then there's also the mid band and then the higher band, which is the so-called new radio 5G. When typically that is normally what you'll find more in a urban area. It's beam steering technology, has much less band or distance depending on angle of attack with your antennae, multiple in and out. Typically about a half-mile radius from the antenna. When you look at that, I mean, it's about 6 homes that are really going to benefit from that technology. So the question is, why? What's going on there? The mid-band has a much larger distance, more like a mile from the tower, so that does encompass a lot more areas, such as the hospital, across the street and along 69, so it makes a lot of sense. But that band 77, that new radio 5G, that one doesn't make sense, and that's also the most expensive part of the infrastructure that you're installing. Typically around 60% of the cost of an antenna or a tower like this would be that band. So it doesn't make sense for roughly 6 homes. So I would just like maybe some explanation. Maybe it's a difference in rural propagation versus urban propagation, things like that. But that's really what I wanted to point out is like there's questions about, is this somehow tied with Winnemac? Because the application, one of the RF engineer cited that, maybe it's a mistake. Also, why the high dollar band for an area that's not particularly concentrated with subscribers? Outside of that, those are the points that I wanted to put in front of you to consider, and hopefully we get some answers later. Thank you.
We ready for questions?
Yes, at this time, we'll close the public hearing and open it up to board discussions and questions.
I've got a few questions that I'd like to ask.
Okay.
Bear with me, Mr. Chairman, ladies and gentlemen, audience members. Prior to Mr. Shipley's comments, I already had this down as my 3rd question. I wanted to ask the presenter, Mr. Blackhurst, where is Winnemac, Indiana?
I looked that up. I didn't know that it was even on the RF statement until Mr. Clancy pointed that out to me today when he provided me with the staff report.
If you're going to address, could you come back up?
All right.
Mike, please.
I didn't realize that the RF had put Winnemac, Indiana on that, his statement of need, until I asked Mr. Clancy for the staff report today to see if there was one available, and he mentioned something like that. So we reached out to the RF engineer, and he provided us with an email, and he said, yes. He goes, that is correct. The letter references Winnemac. That was from me working on a previous site, so I apologize for that. The RF statement of need is for the R or GN2 Rebel site, which was this one in Gas City, Indiana. So that was a mistake on the RF's part.
Okay. Well, I very well know where Winnemac is.
Yeah, it's
It's
quite a ways away.
And it leads to another question and other inconsistencies in the document. On the drawings that are in the document that came in our packet and in the PDF, the supplemental PDF that was distributed to us that had the dates of the PE's stamp of 5/18/2026. 40 of the pages in those drawings reference a location of 5613 East. Or not south, 700 east. That, are you building the tower on Mr. Kundenson and Mr. Olson's property? Because that's their address. That is not the address of the state. One of the things in here that says.
Yeah, because
no address on 700 east.
Right, the address of is a vacant lot, so it doesn't actually have a literal address. So when they do that for the drawings, they kind of take the close proximity of it as far as the address. And then once we get it moving forward with it, then we get it established 911 address for it.
Well, that combined with the reference to Winnemac makes me wonder of the accuracy and the, I'm going to go to the extent and say the competency of the professional engineer's review of these documents. That I will go this far to say that in my prior life in consulting, when I put out a proposal, I sweated blood, sweat, and tears over making sure all the I's were dotted and the T's were crossed, and things that were obvious to stand out were of concern and were corrected before the document ever made it in front of my possible business opportunities. I don't mean that as criticism, I just mean that as a statement of that's my perspective. So what I've reviewed here on this document, I wonder, is it the right that's enough to make me ask the question, is this the right engineering set of specifications for this possible tower?
Are you asking me a question?
I'm making the statement as well as asking the question. What do I have to hang my hat on as these drawings being accurate evidence in our consideration of this proposal?
Right. So the drawings, the thing that you have with the drawings was just the address listed out there for the 1561 or
that is
property.
That's a big glaring, and that's enough to make me ask the question without spending any more time of what else in there could potentially be something that I'm as not as a professional engineer, I'm not that, but I have worked enough work professionally to ask that as a reasonable question. So what assurance can the board have that we've got a competent document here?
There is the survey stamp, stamp survey that list the property owner, the subject property owner and parcel owner on there as the correct one.
Okay. Another question that I have is related to the fall zone representation letter. Only, why only one event? One wind event as the basis for the opinion? What about other possible contributing factors to a collapse of the tower?
As referring to like an earthquake.
Pilot error of a helicopter?
Amen.
Pilot error of an airplane?
Well, we did the FFA study too, and that was considered.
But that's not referenced in the fall zone representation.
I have not seen, because they're building it as far as structurally engineered as far as weather impacts. For if plane goes into a building, helicopter goes into a building, is that specified in there? That it's gonna withstand one of those in their engineering documents?
But that's a failure possibility.
Huh? Yeah.
Probably. I mean, I imagine they engineer that into the building structure.
I'll ask another question and go on from there.
Okay.
What was the basis of the decision for proposing the site where it is? Right next to the roadway.
Right next to the roadway. We put it right there because there's a fiber pedestal right there, and that's where our driveways for bullets would be, right next to that fiber pedestal.
Then I'll ask a follow-up question on that. Do you consider power lines and railroad track structures?
And power lines are across the road. And the railroad tracks are, railroad tracks are, what, 185 feet north?
But do you consider railroad tracks structures?
I don't know if I'd necessarily consider railroad tracks a structure.
Maybe some people are gonna think I'm sounding nitpicky here, but on one of the documents in here that shows a 500-foot radius around the center point of the tower's proposed position, says there are no structures within 500 feet.
Yeah, I wouldn't consider railroad a structure, and I wouldn't consider power lines a structure either.
Well, but it had to be constructed.
Yep.
By Webster's definition, that is.
So did a street sign.
Yeah. And my
in a
next
mailbox.
My next observation, and this isn't really in the form of a question, but it's a recognition that if the railroad track is 181 feet or thereabouts, as demonstrated on one of the drawings in here, that's certainly a lot less than the 270 height of the tower.
Mm-hmm.
And for a failure which occurred at the base and it collapsed to the north onto the railroad tracks, there was an obstruction on the railroad tracks by the failure. Now, I know, I'm aware of the fall zone representation,
And
but I'm
that's
saying what
done by the structural engineer that designs that tower.
if it falls to the west, it's right on top of the roadway.
It's structurally sound at the base of the tower, and it's designed to collapse at the top of the tower.
Okay.
Just like that fall zone letter states.
Well, and I will apply some common sense to it. I was around as the one letter mentioned, the 1965 tornado that rolled through this county. And I've lived 2 miles north of the path. And I saw what an F4 can do to the dairies in the crumpling and the destruction of the tower dairies of the high tension lines that stretch from Rushville, Indiana, all the way over here to the Bland area. And it didn't fall within 100 square foot.
The tower itself.
Those derricks did not. They were scattered willy-nilly. If we had a tornado come through, as a possibility for failure. My common sense says it ain't gonna fall on the 100-foot square area at the base of the, and I'm not trying to sound contentious, I'm just trying to raise, I think, valid questions that other members of the board may have.
Completely understand that. Is there really much of anything that's gonna withstand an EF4 or an EF5 tornado that's constructed? I don't think so. I do tell you this, that Mayberry tornado that went through Kentucky and then was on the ground for 200 miles. Mm-hmm. You remember that? Like 5-7 years ago or something like that? I went through, I was actually looking for a site down there in Cerulean, Kentucky. I went through Dawson Springs. Dawson Springs was leveled. Houses gone, foundations gone. The only thing I saw standing was a tower that was in there. The antennas were messed up, but the tower itself was standing still, was standing upright.
And I will say that I lived in the Muncie, Indiana area when an aircraft clipped the tower and took part of it down, as well as the aircraft destroyed. And it, again, it's possible failure. And I go back to that fall zone letter only representing one wind event, nothing else. Common sense, just asking, and present common sense consideration. My last observation, Mr. Chairman, and the reason I've asked the questions I have in this way, is that with the setback considerations that would, I think, be worthy of consideration for safety for the public and the right of ways and the property lines that are in and close to this proposed site, is that it would be reasonable to consider application of the setback and requirements of being at least comparable to the residential and general business setbacks of at least 270 feet from a residential or a property, a right-of-way or a property line. And that's part of our consideration here in reviewing this petition, as I understand it.
The wireless community has done great lengths and efforts talking and speaking with the legislators of the state of Indiana. And they have done great strides with them for the allowing of cell towers in vicinities and areas. And per the Indiana code, the setbacks thing is the setbacks, as long as the setbacks can't be greater than what is provided in the fall zone letter by the structural engineers. They are 92 feet away from the tower center to the right of way, 114 feet from the center of the road. But they made great strides with the Indiana legislators on improving laws as for specifically for placement of cell towers. Separation distance on cell towers, setbacks on cell towers, and height limits on cell towers. And that's just the state code.
I'm aware of the Indiana code citation. I'll yield back for the moment. I might have a couple other questions.
Okay. Are there any other questions from the board members?
Yes.
Lois?
Is this the only location that you looked at? Have you looked at other locations?
They have looked at other locations. The thing is, you send out letters, you contact people. If you get somebody that's willing to host the tower and sign a lease, that's your spot as long as you got it, as long as RF approves it and goes for it. You can send out multiple notices, you can contact multiple property owners, go in knocking on doors with property owners, and you could walk away with nothing. We had somebody that was interested. I don't know if this was the only one because I wasn't involved with it at that point in time, at the beginning stages of it. But this is the one that the radio frequency engineer chose. And this is the one that Horvath and Verizon moved forward with.
Question, sir. Did you say the Communication Act of 1976?
96.
96, okay.
Is Mr. Curry present?
I am.
Are you aware that if the tower company declares bankruptcy, you are responsible for removing this tower? Were you aware of that?
I'm not sure that I'm aware of it.
Well, you need to be aware of that.
Yeah.
But I would assume that there'd be a lot of people that would be willing to remove the tower for the steel content.
Well, that would be your assumption, sir. I just wanted to make sure that you were informed. Are there any other questions by the board members?
I have a question for the people that spoke, referencing all the information that your property levels would be reduced. I'd like to see some kind of some data on that. You know, did you have an appraisal done? Did you just review things online? I mean, how did you come with those numbers?
Talking about the value of the proproperty?
No,
Correct.
how did the value drop? That's, how
The
did
percentage value drop, how did
Well, in mine, I indicated where the study came from, as far as property values dropping.
Okay.
And I could give you a copy of what I spoke to, so you have that particular.
Okay, well, I have a copy of your letter here. I did not see that. I just,
I don't know if I put that specifically in the letter.
okay, there,
But I did put it in where I spoke up, and I give you a copy.
okay, well,
Be glad to do that.
whether this alleviates your concerns or not, we had an appraiser speak to the board in March. Public record, it was online. And he came to the conclusion that there was no noticeable reduction in values in the research that he did and the report he presented. And this is a respected, to say the least, appraiser in Indiana. And then for what you can see, you can drive through Gas City in the subdivision that's expanding. These lots are being sold, these houses are being built, all within less than half the distance around the cell tower there, right on the edge of the Gas City limits.
Which they're choosing to purchase a home surrounded by that.
But they are.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We chose to live out in the country.
Oh, I get it, but you're also within quarter mile of the upland town limits.
It is the best of everything where we live. We are
Absolutely.
on the border of Gas City.
Absolutely. You are, and they're two growing communities. I know that Grant County's losing people, but those two communities aren't losing.
Sure, but
Gaining.
we have Verizon cell. Our cell is fine where we
Sure.
are, but I think, when you talk to realtors, and we talk to realtors, they would say, yeah, it's gonna be hard. We have a text exchange with the realtor saying it will be hard for you to sell your property if you would want to do that, and you will lose value.
Well,
And so what you're saying is that someone is gonna make, you chose a spot because someone's willing to get rent paid to them, right? That's why this spot is chosen. The spot could be somewhere else, but they didn't look because you had a volunteer. I understand.
You absolutely have to have a volunteer.
I get it, unless, I mean, you can.
I can't go over there and say, I'm putting a tower on your property, you can't do
No, you
anything
can't,
about
that's
it.
right, but essentially, that's kind of what you're doing. You're
No,
putting it
I'm not.
right next to my property.
No, we're not.
It is, it's within 500 feet of
Okay,
mine.
at this time, the public should not engage the speaker at the podium, and the speaker at the
Sorry, I
podium
apologize.
should only address the board. That's the rules.
Could I answer your question about the value of the property?
Certainly.
Okay, all I would say is.
Excuse me, wait a minute.
It's closed.
If you would sit down. People that want to speak, come to the podium. That's our rules.
That's why we're on record and everybody can hear it.
Everybody can hear. You can hear through the sound system, and you're recorded.
A little hard with my broken back.
Sorry.
That's okay. Just to reiterate the question about the value of the property, I looked up, and it's a very long document, your zoning ordinances for Grant County. Okay, it was really hard to get through it because anyway, but part of it my husband alluded to, and this I think directly affects what you're saying about property. It was zoning ordinance 153.100A2, where it states the use, this is under variance, okay, and this is what it's saying under variance. The use or value of the area subject to the property included in the variance will not be adversely affected. So, even if you're looking at just the beauty of the land, it is adversely affected. And there are a lot of other things that other people brought up. So that's in your documents that you have in zoning.
Like they say, beauty's in the eye of the beholder, and I'm not saying this is a beautiful thing by any stretch of the imagination, but where it's going up, there's also 100-foot high power lines run right down there also. So, I mean, they wouldn't think those are very beautiful too. I'm sorry?
It's been there for a long time.
Well, yeah, I'm sure it has. Yeah, I'm sure it has.
But I mean, that's what your ordinance says, so you really should go by it.
Are there anyone else who would like to address the board and answer a question? Or does do the board members have any other questions?
I just did a quick search about Ms. Lewis's question about the Indiana Board of Realtors. The Indiana Board of Realtors has not done a specific cell phone tower, but they do fall under the authority of the National Board. And the National Board has done a study. You can look it up on nar.realtor, and it references several other studies. The studies vary on property value drop between 7 to 20%. So depending on where that's at. So one of those studies was overseas, so I think that one obviously would not be applicable here. But several others are from 2019, 2018, and forward, representing smaller and larger communities across the nation. Just to give you some information there.
Okay.
I have another question, if I might.
Yes.
This would be for Mr. Blackhurst. And I don't remember which exhibit it is, but the letter that Mr., forgive me if I mispronounce the name, Moskowinski, responded to the removal of equipment if the lease terminates. There was one part of the citation that said the agreement would have to expect removal of the tower within 45 days at the termination of the lease. But in Mr. McRowinski's letter, again, I apologize if I mispronounce it, I'm terrible with consonants, that they would get it done with 180 days. Why the difference when the agreement says 45 days?
I'm not quite sure who Maskowinski or who you're referencing on there is.
Let's see here.
I got co-location removal.
That would be in Exhibit 5, and the letter was from President and CEO of Horvath Communications, I apologize, Aaron
Horvath.
Moskowinski.
Oh, yeah. Well, she got married yet, but.
Okay, well, then, and I apologize to her for calling her Mr. then. But nevertheless, is that saying that you would not hold to the agreement of 45 days?
No, they are bound to that agreement. So if they don't remove it within the 45 days of abandonment, then they're in default of that agreement. So that is actual language from the fully executed agreement.
Yeah.
And to answer the kind of question is, it's Mr. Curry's responsibility to remove the tower if Horvath should go bankrupt.
Well, this would not be bankruptcy. It's just
right. This is just termination of the lease.
Right. Said,
right.
We're cutting the lease. We don't need it anymore.
No, they will remove the tower, and Horvath will remove the tower within 45 days. But if Horvath
discrepancy, yes, discrepancy that kind of jumped out at me from the CEO of Horvath saying it no different than the agreement.
It's in the last paragraph.
Okay, she got 180 days.
Yeah.
All right.
I guess I'm gonna say, do you have documentation, letters to document the inquiries made of other possible sightings?
I specifically do not, but Horvath might, because this was with another agent that was started this, and she went on maternity leave 6 months ago, and she enjoying her motherhood and not coming back. So I have to reach out to them.
But no documents to present here for the board to review as evidence.
No, I didn't see that in your ordinance.
Well, we're allowed to consider all documents presented as evidence in the deliberations that we have for making a decision.
Okay, I just didn't see that one required. That's listed in the ordinance as a requirement. Otherwise, if it was, we would have provided it.
I would think you would want to do as much, again, this is observation, I would think as pursuing the business, you would want to do a slam bang up of a job as you could do to present all I's dotted and T's crossed in the proposal being made. I yield back,
Miss Rowan.
Did Horvath, in their efforts to find a suitable location for this tower, did they consider the opposition of the residents there, and did they make a proposal or come up with an idea of what they would do if there was substantial opposition to this proposed tower? I mean, normally you wouldn't put something like that in a report, but if I were doing due diligence, I would be considering all possible outcomes.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm...
Well, as far as a proposal, meaning proposal to who? The constituents that are opposing the tower?
Correct. The homeowners that would be most likely affected by this tower.
The homeowners that most likely be affected by this tower would get better cell service than they have.
I don't mean that. I mean about having it right next door to their property in their backyard, whatever.
Well, it's 500 feet from basically the property line to the tower. That's pretty far. I mean, if you think about it in terms of where sites are going all over the place, 500 feet is pretty far. As far as being, and it's what, 700 and some feet to the nearest residential dwelling or structure, I think. That's a pretty good distance. And it's not just sitting right in their backyard. It's not just sitting right next to their property line.
But does that answer my question?
No, it doesn't, but I don't know what kind of proposal you're talking about, what they're proposing to those people, the people that are opposing it. You're gonna have opposition on every single case that comes out of anything, whether it be a convenience store or, let's say, a gun gallery or something like that, or anything. You're going to have opposition. You guys see that on a case-to-case basis that you guys sit there and hear. I mean, we expect some opposition. Sometimes we expect or anticipate a lot of favorable people for it because their self-service are awful. I've been out of the site where I haven't been even able to get service. I couldn't even text somebody to let them know I was there on site to meet them because I had no service there.
Right, but I'm talking about compensation because normally companies consider things based on what it will cost them and what will it gain them. How badly, in other words, is Horvath committed to this particular location?
Is a tower company. That is their business. That's what they do. They build sites for the major broadband wireless carriers. That's how they make their business. Now, I would not expect them to provide any compensation to a property owner that is opposed to any of this or any idea of that, because how is there factual evidence that it's going to decrease their property value? There isn't any for that location or the surrounding areas right there. There is no studies. There is no, for that area, there isn't any. And as far as has there been a study? Because there's not a cell tower there. There hasn't been a recent home bought or home sold in that area where this tower is going. Where the tower is, in the vicinity of that tower. So I don't know how they would provide compensation to somebody if there isn't any actual studies or evidence on that.
Okay, I think
I would ask a question.
we have that one answered. Yes, Mr.
None of you, Mr. Blackhurst,
Okay.
of the property owners. How to say this? Did you have any kind of a real estate appraisal made to support it that you could have in the form of a document that could be presented to as evidence that there would be?
We do not have a real estate.
Sure, please.
Again, the name is Don. Probably can't pronounce my last name. That's okay.
I'd probably do better than I would with confidence, Mr. Knudsen.
Knudsen, like a knife.
Well, that was close.
We do not have a real estate appraisal giving that particular number. Where we got that number from was a real estate developer who's in the large property business, unique pieces like we have. If you looked at the picture, you could see it's a pretty unique piece of property. And he came because I'm thinking in terms, the day is coming when I'll probably need to move. My wife and I might need assistance. We have assisted living to think of, or independent living, or something. One of those categories, who knows?
I'm searching for evidence.
I know. So he put together his appraisal of comparables, value of property, and gave it to us. He is not a licensed appraiser. What he gave us was a estimated retail value that he would list the property for. So it's a professional saying, this is what my experience has said I can sell it for, but an appraiser will probably come in and give a different number. Because we've had 2 appraisals on individual houses over the past several years, and they're miles apart.
Fair enough. I appreciate that.
So that is the context.
I'm looking for a hard piece of something that gives me evidence.
I could give you that piece of paper that's got some of my notes on it.
I'm not saying you're misdirecting or anything. I'm saying evidence that we can have in front of us to consider, like we have
I'd be glad to
this
give you.
document and so forth.
I could give you his printed copy of that, if you don't mind my scribbled notes on it. So I can send that to you via email, send it to the office tomorrow. The question on, I suggested the company buy our place. I'm not saying they're gonna lose any money, because they say we wouldn't if they sell the property. And what I mentioned in my letter to you a couple days ago, that we'd be willing to lease the property back, because we'd have to do that in order to find a place to live. And obviously, location is pretty important, especially for my daughter and her family. For us, we're old. We can do a lot of different things. This doesn't affect me much, but boy, this is going after my family, and I really don't like that. So I will do whatever we can to help the family.
Thank you, sir.
But one more thing. We were saying that in that purchase, they give us our retail value. We will pay them a monthly fee based on our mortgage payment, so that they get a rent during that period. Once it's up, they can sell the property, recoup their rent, and there would be no pain on us except the emotional pain. And there's a lot of that.
Excuse me. Thank you, sir.
Can I respond briefly? I just want to reiterate that our main ask is that you say no to rezoning this area. This is the backup plan.
I have one more question and then I'll.
Okay.
Mr. Hartman. And this is for Mr. Blackhurst again. Did the siting team give consideration to contacting and talking with the state of Indiana as the possibility of putting a tower in the open areas of the interstate exchange at I-69 and 22?
I-69, 22, no, because the area, let's see, is that just directly?
It looks like it's about, from looking at the graph or the charts and pictures, it looks like it's maybe about a mile from this, maybe as the crow flies, within a mile of this location.
Well, a mile.
And I'm cognizant of the big 2-mile circle, that picture saying this tower site too far, this tower site is owned by Verizon, this tower site, but nothing, there, that interchange, it seems like I'm asking, is there a reasonable distance there that would make that a consideration in one perspective? And if an effort was made to give analysis to that consideration.
So is that like a mile? Is it on the west side of 69?
Well, the interchange of 69 and 22 is to the northwest of the proposed site.
Oh, northwest.
Northwest, yeah.
Oh.
Where the Cracker Barrel is at and the gas stations are at, and Marion General Health has their new installation at that area.
Is that 22 the one that goes right up above Upland?
That's correct.
Okay.
Now you got oriented, you're in the right area.
I'm trying to see if that was even in the desired area. I know, because the 2-mile circle that's in that thing isn't their desired search area, that's not it. Their search area, I think, was only a half a mile radius from there. So I don't know if that Indiana State property is part of that desired area.
That would be under the control of the state highway department, I would think. I don't know that exactly, but it would be, it's a federal highway, but the state of Indiana maintains it, so.
Right. I'd have to look to really kind of see where it's at. I mean, to give you an answer if anybody to reach out to them or not, I have no idea.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Herb.
I
Okay.
got one quick question.
Go ahead.
Have you visited the site? Have you been out to the site?
Yep.
Have you experienced personally any connectivity issues associated with the site?
I have AT&T. Unfortunately, yeah, I have AT&T for service.
Because I'm thinking about the public need.
Right.
And how important it is for people that are not directly impacted.
Right, and I did look at coverage maps for Verizon, I looked at coverage maps for AT&T, and I looked at coverage maps for T-Mobile in that same area. I think they all, what it seems like is they all have a little lack of service in there as far as not having provide the best enhanced, most reliable service that they can. So that area is probably needed for the three carriers, which will give co-location opportunity for them, for that tower.
Very good, thank you.
All right. Are there any further questions by Mark? It's time for the... Yes, sir.
Can I say something?
Yes, you may come up. And if you would give us your name and...
Merlin Leffler.
Yes, would you sign in on the sheet there?
I know most of you think when you come to these, you think it's a MIMBY thing. There's some MIMBY here, there's no doubt. We're all sort of that way, but I'm here in support of my neighbors. They're close enough. I live in the same half mile. Your question, sir, very good. Thank you for your interest. The high tension wires are between the railroad tracks and the tower. Absolutely. The helicopter landed yesterday at the hospital, comes right over that. That is a big concern for me. I mean, that comes right in on the path of the new hospital. As far as appraisals are one man's opinion. One man's opinion. And a tower can help the land that it's on. In value, it hurts the neighbor. I've done both. You have two kinds. You have towers that is owned there and they pay you to rent. There's other towers that it's an easement, be a lifetime easement. And so that drops the value of the farmland because they can't do anything. They don't collect money or crop it. Right there. So you got two kinds. So I hear appraisals, but if you got real estate, this kind of real estate, I've never seen the value go up because you had a tower. Farmland, if you have a tower, it would go up if it's not an easement. I've been a broker since '68. I've sold millions of dollars of ground. I drive everywhere and I don't hardly ever, never have a signal. Hardly ever. So I don't see a big deal about that. That's all I want to say. I'm here for my neighbors.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, at this time, we'll focus just on any board deliberations. So the board can discuss this amongst ourselves. And one thing that may want to consider is, do you consider this one letter here about this Winnemac, Indiana site? Do you consider this to be significant in your decision? And if you consider this to be significant, then you could propose to table this until the next meeting, at which time this could have corrections made to it. But also bearing in mind that if this were to be tabled to the next meeting, we're all prohibited from discussing this with anyone else. And no new evidence will be presented other than this one piece of paper that we found to have an error. But
And this one sheet that has the error on it,
yes,
is that the sole piece in here that says that there is a need for the coverage area? 'Cause it's all I could find.
it's to improve coverage. Yeah.
So it's just from this one
thing.
source,
Now,
one engineer.
also remind the board that we are not to determine whether or not this cell tower is needed. That's the responsibility of the tower company and the provider, Verizon, who is wanting this. They determine, based on their maps and their studies, if they need a tower. We have no basis for determining that. They're considered our experts. But we can evaluate your findings of fact worksheet and remind you to look it over before you would place your vote. Because the criteria on here you should consider.
I got one question.
Lois?
Should we consider the information that Mr. Duke gave, that they had a couple of information in the packet that they had about different things about the tower? Do we consider that misinformation
The
that you found?
inconsistencies that I
Yeah,
referred to.
yes.
If you think they were, of importance and significant.
Well, I think if you're gonna bring something before the board, you wanna have the correct information.
I have no argument with that.
Okay, that's exactly what
There
I'm
is
saying.
there is a lot of information here.
Yeah, but we just wanna make sure that we're getting the correct information.
Yeah, if there is something that's significantly wrong and that you want to table this, that would require a motion. Otherwise, we'll move to the next step.
Okay.
If I could respond to Ms. Jones'
Yes, you can, this is
in a
board
way.
discussion.
I spent a fair amount of time examining this document, and I've looked at each page. In the set of drawings that I referred to, there's 43 pages, 44 pages there, and the one inconsistency of the address, okay, there's 40 of those common, that's common throughout the document. In my way of evaluating it, I see that as incorrect information. When there are two other pages that cite specifically the tower location of something 700 East, and I'm sorry, 700 East, and no road address for 600 or on 700 East Lake.
More of an estimation.
It's an estimation.
4,600 block.
It's inconsistent. And if I were if I were the person putting this document together, that's pretty glaring. I would have made blessed sure that if I'm citing the location, I would say blank 700 east,
Right.
600 south.
And kind of, as I evaluated this as well, and when I wanted to go to the site, I entered the parcel number into the GIS system to find out where really this exactly is, and the parcel number was correct. And there isn't really an address for that.
Not yet.
The empty land, so to speak.
And typically it's not. And I've seen that on other applications made for cell towers. They're usually not.
So I can kind of understand that it is next to this address. And in the letter here, it states location near 5613 South, 700 East, Gas City, Indiana.
I give you that.
But anyway, again, I say, if you feel that there's significant error, then it would require a motion, a second, and a vote by the board to table this.
I would like more time to look at it, evaluate that, so I'd make a motion to table.
I'll second.
I have a motion and a second. And Mr. Glancy, when you're ready there with the record, if you would give us a roll call vote.
Michael Duke,
Yes.
Andy Ellis,
Yes.
Lois Jones,
Yes.
Sandra Rowan,
Yes.
Wilbur Webb,
Yes.
Motion passed. This is tabled until the next meeting. Normally, we do not meet in July. However, we will. I'll call a special meeting for the first Monday in July. That is not a holiday in case it's the 4th. Does anyone know exactly?
It's not.
It is not. Okay, so the first Monday in July works. And we will review, and if you would, sir, correct the problems that were mentioned here and return with that new page. Thank you.
If I might, Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
Return with the page the night of the meeting gives us no time to.
Yes, submit the return page to Mr. Glancy a week before so that he can have it and send it to us.
Allow us time to be able to digest.
You're talking about the RF statement from the radio frequency engineer from Verizon, or would you like the date or the address changed on the drawings as well?
I'd say the whole thing.
No,
That's
thank
it.
Okay.
I would scour the document and try to get the inaccuracies out of it. if opposed.
Okay, so you would like the whole new packet kind of submitted?
I would like something that I could hang my hat on and feel comfortable that we are dealing with complete, accurate information.
Gotcha.
For the entire document, because, and as you've heard me say, I'm not comfortable with it as it is.
Sounds good.
All right.
and so, and here's, just to be clear, the meeting you're talking about is the August meeting.
No, the July meeting.
So we're
We're
going to
going
have
to
a
call a
July.
special meeting for July 1st Monday.
Okay, so we are going to have a meeting July 1st.
Yeah.
Okay.
Is it the first or is it sixth?
Well, no, it'll be the 6th. Yeah.
Okay, first Monday.
And that doesn't.
Is that enough time?
The 3-day holiday, 4th of July weekend.
Well, it might. Are we open that day?
You actually have it scheduled in case.
Just in case, yes. But he brought up a point, is that going to be a 3-day weekend?
Right.
It's a Friday on the Monday or the Friday. I don't know how it's going to be.
When's the
It's
4th?
on the 6th. right?
Monday is
Yeah,
the 6th.
we'll have the 3rd off, I think.
You'll have the 3rd off.
The 3rd,
Yeah.
okay.
Okay,
We have
the
the 3rd
6th
off.
should work then. All right. Just one, make it very brief.
We mentioned this real estate appraisal. Can I send that document? You mentioned that if you table it, any more information. We spoke of it tonight.
That's correct. That's the law here on how we conduct hearings, is that
So I cannot submit that.
no new information can be submitted. This is just corrections to the record.
Unfortunately, okay?
Okay, next on the agenda is actually a time for public comment.
Was the director going to give a report tonight?
They bring that in depending on how we do here time-wise.
Okay, fair enough.
I want to make sure the public gets their chance. We can review his information later.
This supplemental one already passed out.
Jared Armstrong, 7120 South, 825 East Upland. I'm speaking regarding the Heimlich dump site case, and I know Mr. Glancy was in his office earlier this week, had given you a handout. Some of this is a little bit repetitive, I'll explain that. What he had handed you before are my statements from December 1st and November 3rd BZA meetings for 2025 regarding this matter. I know we have some new board members. I know you were not here, and I wanted you to have that information because it's going to be vital to review when there is a vote. There's also some aerial photos that Mr. Glancy had in the packet you already have. I just went ahead and printed some of those today on as high quality paper as I could, and you have a timeline at the front of that packet that he just handed out that I'm going to be going over. All right. Like I said, my name is Jared Armstrong. My home and property abut Mr. Heimlich's dump site on the north side. I've lived at this residence since January 1st, 2017. I moved in on New Year's Day. Prior to that, the home and property were my grandfather's. I purchased it from him in 2017, so I've been around that area my whole life, 38 years old. I wanted to give a little bit of background on my experience as well, because I know this is the first time some of the board members have heard me speak on this matter. I've worked in the environmental field for 16 years. Specifically, I complete environmental due diligence, and I work to secure federal, state, and county level permits for site development. So things like wetland permitting, floodplain permitting, stormwater permits and review, those are everyday tasks for me. I also would like to address attendance at some of the spring BZA meetings. I've not been able to attend, unfortunately. I coach baseball from mid-March through mid-June. Have a game tonight, 2 games actually for my son. Unfortunately, I'm missing those. I've got some coaches covering for me. It's the same situation for some of the neighbors, so it's been hard to make it on Mondays for these spring meetings. That doesn't mean we're not invested. Also, lastly on that note, myself and others, we were not aware that Mr. Miller, Mr. Heimlich's engineer, was going to be giving an update last meeting. I was able to watch the video, and I'm going to speak on some of that. Like I mentioned, I understand that this board has new members that started in 26, and you may not have the full history and background of this dump site. So to clarify what has occurred, I'm going to go over the timeline you have, and we're going to start from the beginning, and I'm going to attempt to give you a little bit clearer picture of how this is all unfolded. We will get into the aerial photos in a little bit here. So the timeline that Mr. Glancy has just handed out here. Like I said, I moved in 2017. In 2019, industrial scale dumping began at the site with Hartford City Sewer and Street Improvement Project. We'll get to the photos in a minute. 2019 was the first time I contacted the previous APC director, Ryan Mallet, or Malo, I'm not sure how you pronounce it, to make him aware and the county aware that there was an unauthorized dump site placing material in the floodplain. No action occurred at that time from the county. Dumping operations continued. Eventually, Hartford City wrapped up that project. Then in early 2024, industrial scale dumping activity increases with the onset of Upland's Main Street Mile project. For some of you who have not heard me speak before, the level of activity increased with 70 dump trucks per day, one way by my house and other residents that are here today on that road. So it was 140 trips in front of residences. If you haven't been out there, that road is destroyed. It's been patched some. In July of 2024, I presented this issue and citizens' concerns at the APC meeting. The APC administrator at the time, Jim Strauss, later came to the site a few days later, agreed there was a problem, the site was out of compliance, no action resulted, there was a change in APC leadership after that time, and then Mr. Glancy took over. In February of 2025, I forwarded all the information I had on the Heimlich dump site to the new APC director, Mr. Glancy here. When we get to July of 2025, almost a year ago, the APC posts a stop work order at the dump site. Dumping continues, and that's going to be a theme you're going to see through the rest of these bullet points here. August 7th, 8th, 13th, and 25th, I emailed the APC director to inform him that dumping has continued after stop work. This is 2025. We get to September 2025. Again, I emailed the director to inform him that dumping has continued after stop work. Then we have the November 3rd, 2025 BZA meeting. That was the first public hearing that had been held for this special exception application for this dump site. At that meeting, BZA board member at the time, Randy Atkins, made a motion to continue with the condition that no new material be brought to the site. Dumping still continued after that. 3 times in November, the 17th, 18th, and 26th in 2025, I emailed Mr. Glancy, the director of the APC, some photos and let them know that dumping was continuing after the stop work order. February 23rd, 2026, I send Mr. Glancy some text messages with videos of dumping activity continuing on site. April 16th, 2026, just 2 months ago, I sent some additional videos to Mr. Glancy of dumping activity continuing on site. This is activity of dumping on top of the piles. And so kind of what I want to really highlight here is that dumping operations have continued since the November 25 meeting when this board was told operations had ceased. I provided multiple videos and photos of these trucks dumping new materials on the pile. Like I said, Mr. Atkins motioned during that November 25 meeting to continue with the condition no new material was brought to the site. So with that point, I have a lot of questions, concerns on if Mr. Miller's design and proposed plan is even accurate at this point because material has continued to be dumped. I'm going to now pivot to the photos in the back of the packet here on the timeline that Mr. Glancy just handed out. Actually, I'm going to hit 2 clarifications before I go through the photo with you. Bear with me here. I did watch the video from the last meeting in its entirety of Mr. Miller's presentation, so I feel I am somewhat up to speed on that. And the first thing I would like to clarify above all else is that this material has not accumulated over 25 years, as Mr. Miller suggested the last meeting. We have not all continued to watch the debris accumulate out our windows for 25 years. That's simply not the case, and he is unfortunately not well informed on that matter. Like I said, I moved in January 1 of 2017, and the dumping began in 2019. And this I'll show in the aerial photos in just 1 second here. A second important clarification I want to make for the new board members. This matter has nothing to do with the existing gravel pit off County Road 700 that has been there since, I believe, the 60s. I have no issue with that site. This dump site is located on a completely separate parcel that is zoned residential. And prior to the industrial dumping activity, my understanding is Mr. Heimlich would spread manure out, disc it in, and sell a little topsoil at the site. There was no dump truck activity. You might hear his tractor running on a Sunday, which was about, normal agricultural use, nothing disturbing. Now, to the photos, if you go to the first photo behind your outline I passed out, these are all Google Earth imagery. Like I said, I tried to get these printed on some photo paper so they're as clear as possible. They're all time-stamped as they come in Google Earth. You can go back in time, and I've written the year. 2012, what you see here, it's important to note, this is a flat surface. You see some disking around this open area in the middle of the photo. That's from, like I said, Mr. Heimlich would go over there and he would disc, is my understanding. He would get manure from the horse farm down the road and some other places that would get disked in, and over time he might sell some topsoil off that. So it's a flat surface. We flip to the next one. We're in 2016. Again, all that brown you see, that's a flat surface. There's no giant pile of rubble there, okay? We flip to 2019, and this is very important. The open area, the southeast corner, right adjacent to 825 East, you will see all those little circular piles. That is where a dump truck has continually backed up and dumped a load. That is the start of the dumping activity on the site, which is 2019 when Hartford City started their project, and the first time I contacted the county about this matter. We're going to flip, and I think that's very clear. They're all, there's a row of them. That's that giant mountain starting to build there in the southeast corner of the open area next to 825 East. 2022, if you flip to the next aerial, on the south edge of the open area, just south of that white covered structure in the middle, that is a giant mountain that has started after Hartford City's project. You can see the slope. It's flat on top, but you can see the slope as it goes and slopes down from the higher elevation towards that white building in the center. So that's a giant rubble of concrete and asphalt, rebar. Now, if you flip one more page, you'll see the site as it is today, or at least of November of 2025, when Google took this photo. And I've tried to highlight all the general operations that are going on here that were not when any of us moved in. So you can see now that giant pile, after Upland has added to it, is so tall there's a shadow. So on the north side of that pile in the center that I've circled in yellow highlight, that dark area is the shadow from that giant pile of rubble. Up in the northeast corner, that's a giant pile of fill. It also has like rebar and pipes and stuff in it. It's 10 feet from my property line. It's probably right touching the road. It's in the road right away. Then it's also important to remember in the southwest corner, there's sand and gravel mining taking place. That's an open pit mine. And then you have the continued topsoil extraction. And then just the last page is just a floodplain map to show you that this whole site is indeed in the floodplain. I have other material I want to try to get through, and I will be as expedient as I can because I know we've had a long meeting and there are a couple folks that would really like to speak behind me. Before I move on, does anyone have any questions regarding to when this started, as far as the clarity of these pictures? And I was wondering if Mr. Glancy can confirm that you have seen these videos and they do show that the dump truck activity is on those dates.
Yes, and in the packet I gave you, there are 3 different dates, 5 different videos, and it's extremely clear that they are dumping on top of that material.
I'm happy. Go ahead, sir.
After we were represented by Mr. Miller that there was no dumping going on within the last.
That was the information that he was given.
But
those dates are after that.
Correct.
And certainly after we sat in this form stating no more dumping. They could remove material but not add.
We don't have another meeting after this one. Area plan's not meeting, so we can continue.
I appreciate the patience. If there's no questions on the photos, I'll continue. Like I said, I know there's some new members to this matter, so I want to refresh your memory on what is required at a minimum for approval of this special exception. A site survey and a site plan that notes setbacks, proposed contours, and methods of screening. I've yet to see that provided. An H&H study which is a hydrology study that notes a confirmation of no rise and the base flood elevation is required for the BZA approval. And I mentioned this you'll have this in your notes from my November statement. In the zoning ordinance on page 157, it states the BZA does not have the authority to grant any variance which will cause an increase in the base flood elevation to occur. That has not been provided so far by Mr. Miller, and that's extremely important because when you look at these photos, there's a residence, Mr. Lee Buckner's, right across the road, and that study's what's going to determine that all that material in the floodplain, when we get a 500-year storm event and it displaces where that water would go, will not cause water to go over into his residence on the road, et cetera, et cetera. So that's very important. And I heard him say in the last meeting that they could abide by the floodplain permit, but I didn't get a lot of details as how. There was no hydrology study provided as far as I'm aware. To continue down the list of what's required here, a floodplain permit, a county grading permit, wetland delineation. IDEM did a site visit to the dump site. They noted wetlands on site and that likely continued operations would impact these wetlands. They said a wetland delineation would be required, and they said potentially mitigation to offset the impacts to these jurisdictional wetlands. I've yet to see any information regarding that provided. Mining. There's a reclamation plan required for how the site will be restored once mining operations have ceased. Also a county bond. Road use management agreement for who's going to pay for this road, how's it going to be fixed, what's the use going to be, whether it's the 825 or if it's 700 out there. To focus on, and lastly on my list here, a dust mitigation plan, because in some of the prior meetings, I know in the November meeting, we heard Lee Buckner's comments regarding how his house, he's directly east of the site, vehicles get covered in this dust that blow off the mound of the concrete, all broken up. On the mining reclamation, I just want to remind everyone that this special exception application, my understanding, is also to allow for the continued mining of sand and gravel. That's an open pit mine in addition to the dumping. There's no permits or reclamation plan or county bond or any information from the owner, the attorney, or Mr. Miller's, which is Mr. Heimlich's engineer, has been provided as far as how that will continue. Are they going to continue to open up other areas on the site? Make more open pit mines? None of that's been explained. I'm going to move on a little bit now. I heard reference to a berm height when I watched the video from the last meeting from Mr. Miller. He proposed an 8 to 10 foot tall berm, was my understanding. And he also referenced that he took a guess that that pile was roughly 20 to 25 foot tall. My house is 20 foot tall on the backside. That pile is at least 40 foot tall at least, and Mr. Miller should know because they did a full survey out there, the exact height of that pile, and he should be able to tell this board. The reason I say it's at least 40 foot tall is because I live at a higher elevation before you drop down the hill, okay? My guess, this is a guess, I don't have a contour map out, that it's a 20 foot drop from where my south field is on the north border of the property Mr. Heimlich owns, down to what would be normal ground elevation there, okay? So 20 foot just to get to ground level where my house is on. From my kitchen window, when I look south, there are trees at the edge of the field. Those trees are probably 80 foot tall. When I look out my kitchen window, I can see dump trucks driving on the piles that's halfway up the trees. So at a bare minimum, you're 20 feet up the ground where existing ground level was, where the dump site began. And where my house sits, that's 20 feet higher, you're at least 20 feet higher in the air there. So it's not 20 to 25 foot tall. And my whole point of this is if the material stays in place, what is an 8 to 10 foot tall berm going to do? It's not going to do much to provide screening. I just wanted to point that fact out. Secondly, from the last meeting, I heard mention about removing the material off site and how that might be difficult to do. I want to remind you that this board does have full authority to deny that application and require that all material be removed from the site and out of the floodplain. Like I said, when I watched the video, I believe Mr. Miller referenced it might take 10 years to remove that material off-site. That's simply inaccurate. It's entirely dependent upon the amount of equipment used and the level of effort. The Main Street Mile project from Upland, they moved all that material in 1.5 to 2 years. If Mr. Heimlich needs to hire a contractor to move the material in a timely manner, so be it. They didn't dump that stuff there for free, It's been 7 months since the initial public meeting to discuss this special exception for the Heimlich dump site. Mr. Miller initially promised updates weekly. To date, nothing has been provided that I've seen. There's no site plan, there's no hydrology analysis, no confirmation that the floodplain will not rise. There's no site permits that have ever been provided, and there is no mining reclamation plan. The site owner has never once been present for a meeting. Mr. Heimlich's attorney nor Mr. Miller seem to be aware of the ongoing operations on site as there's continued dumping. The site continues to dump new material. If you look at the timeline that I provided, I've documented 10 instances where I witnessed dumping that continued after the stop work was in place. No fines have been issued. These actions are discrediting to the county ordinance, the APC, and this board and the overall process. Myself, neighbors, we don't have any more patience. I'm asking, these are open air questions, will you issue fines? Is there going to be an enforcement action? Will this be denied? Have you all visited the site? Please take these questions into consideration. I also understand there was some discussion or questions from Mr. Miller last meeting as to what would be considerable in terms of setbacks for the purposes of a site plan. I want to make this very clear. Nothing less than the setbacks listed in the zoning ordinance are acceptable to myself or the surrounding residents. Last meeting, Mr. Miller stated the material could not remain on site and meet the setback and floodplain requirements. This reinforces what I have said all along. The site is not suitable for this purpose. If the protections in the ordinance cannot be afforded to the residents, then the site is not suitable. The county has been aware of this site for 2 years. A stop work order has been in place for 1 year. We have provided more than ample evidence the site is not suitable. It continues to operate and be a nuisance. Right is right, wrong is wrong. Why do myself and other residents need to continue to endure the nuisance, loss of property value, etc.? I encourage this board to do the right thing, to protect local residences, deny the site application. Enough is enough. Why should myself and other adjacent residents compromise on the integrity of the neighborhood via the setbacks in the ordinance because this dump site did not do things properly to begin with? Had they done the right thing to begin with, a public meeting would have been held with residents and dump site would not have been allowed because we would have come to the conclusion together that the site is not suitable because it couldn't reach the couldn't comply with the setbacks and other requirements. I'll ask a simple question here, and this is going to echo some of what you already heard on the cell tower discussion previously. Would any member of this board want to have this site start operation next to your home after you move in, especially on a residential parcel next to adjacent homes? Again, I want to remind you, you have full authority to deny the application and require the material be removed. If you look at item 3B of the special exception application, this is what was submitted by Mr. Heimlich as the application. It notes, and I believe the cell tower folks also referenced this, it notes the special exception will not be injurious to the use and enjoyment of the property in the immediate vicinity. After all the information I have shared with the county these past 2 years, I'm not sure if it's even possible to agree with that statement on the application that the owner has provided. I have 2 simple requests at the end here that I'm going to read, and then I'm going to briefly read a couple paragraphs. My wife, she could not be here today, that she asked I read, and then I ask your patience to continue to listen for any of the other residents that are here. My 2 requests. I formally request to see any and all application materials, design, site plan permits, hydrology studies, anything associated with the site before a decision is made. I also formally request to have a public hearing in August and for this board to come to a decision. Like I said, I've been dealing with this since 2019. County's been aware of it for 2 years. I think the theme from the owner and his representatives are that there's not going to be compliance here. I'm ready for a decision. And to end, I'm going to read what my wife, Anna Byers, had written to present today. It says, "Dear board members, a stop work order was posted by the county at the location over a year ago, which has been blatantly ignored. A subsequent meeting, the landowner was told that work must stop until a resolution was found and that no new material would be brought to the location. That has not occurred. We have photo and video evidence of new material being brought to the site. This leads me to believe that the landowner is unwilling to comply with any regulations regardless of the BZA wishes. Mr. Heimlich failed to do his duty and follow the defined process that was put in place. Residents are now being forced to address this matter after the fact rather than through the established process intended to protect the integrity of the neighborhood which we call home. We are concerned about the effect this site will have on property values and about the long-term use. What will this do to our home's values? What is the future use of this property? What could the land be used for now? It's no longer a field. It's no longer a future home site. It's a landfill with little to no resale value. The concrete and asphalt are falling into the creek. The pile is so tall that I can see it out my window. The community is asking for the board members to please do what is right and ensure that Mr. Heimlich's dump site comply with the existing ordinance. If it cannot, which has been stated, the material must be removed. Support your community, support the neighbors, and push for accountability. That's all I have this evening. I really appreciate you hanging in here and letting us speak. Any questions before I step down?
I appreciate your patience.
Thanks.
And I assure you, I haven't forgot you.
I understand.
And I would say the same for Lois. Yeah. And we're the only two that have been here a long time.
Right.
And this has been the most difficult problem this board's been presented with in my 10 years of being here. And I hope we can resolve it. And that's what I would like to do.
And I would like to say that I appreciate all you as well. You know, that was mentioned when the folks were here earlier this evening regarding the cell tower matter. I know you all have a lot of decisions to make, a lot of material to consider, a lot of points of view. And I know you're all dedicating your time here as well, just as we are to be here today. So I do appreciate your time and your service. Thank you.
I'd like to make one comment real quick,
sure,
if I could. As we move forward, just to let everyone know, this is no excuses about the current cases going on, but Mr. Heimlich's legal representative, Joe Certain, passed away. And just out of respect, I thought everyone should know that. And they will be looking for another attorney. But I just felt like it was an important thing to put in play right here. So.
I'm going to be brief because I think Jared did a really nice job outlining everything and kind of reviewing the main facts of this. I want to thank you guys.
Can we have your name?
Yes. My name is Scott Berger. I live immediately south of the parcel that we're discussing. Just to briefly review, as Jared stated, Mr. Heimlich is attempting to get a special exemption to continue dumping years after the dumping began in the first place. The board issued a stop dumping order last year, which was not complied with. I estimate that the piles of concrete, asphalt, rebar, and others various debris are less than 200 feet from my property line and less than 300 feet from my actual house. My main concern is over my and my fellow neighbors' property values. I would ask that each of the board members consider whether or not they would consider purchasing a home next to a dumping zone like this. My recommendation would be for the board to have Mr. Heimlich comply with the existing ordinance, which I do not think is possible. Just after talking to Jared and knowing the 500-foot setback in the floodplain, I don't think that's possible. If it is not possible, I would ask that the material be removed. Thank you.
Mr. Burke, did you sign the?
I did. You want to address as well?
Well, I'm going to ask you, your property, is that to the south of, and you're right across the creek?
Correct.
Okay. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Shannon Seaver, and I'm here with my husband Scott. And I believe we are the oldest in the neighborhood. We've lived at our property, which is across the street from Mr. Heimlich's property, for approximately 23 years. And for the first 15 years that we lived there, the view from our pasture was just an open field. In fact, I don't know if I really knew personally who owned the field. But
about 6, 7 years ago, or months ago, years ago, the view changed drastically. It became what it is today. And although it's 6 or 7 years, it seemed like a short time. It grew to what it is today. And I'm not sure if you've all been down that road, but if you have, you do know. We started out as a scenic country road that we lived on that led around to the river, and it was a nice place to drive home to. Now it's hard for me to even drive that direction. I work in town at the school, and I go the other way around because it's hard to see. Of course, we are disappointed with property values, of course, what we've all heard tonight, but also concerns are the creek where the asphalt and concrete is falling into. It travels underneath the road into our property. And we have concerns about water quality and the flooding. I will say in all the years that we have lived there, we had the worst flooding we ever had approximately 2 springs ago. And I believe that it was from all the dumping. So yes, we have all those disappointments and concerns, but also the frustration is this was started, at least the first meeting that we attended was November of 2025, I believe. And our neighbors have taken the time to attend the meetings, and I apologize, I haven't been to the last couple. But I want to thank Jared for all the work that he has done for all of our neighbors and the work he's put into it. But from our personal experience, the frustration that regarding the work orders, I think there were 2 or 3 signs that were put up every time. I personally saw Mr. Heinlich there one night, but I've also seen the signs have all been removed. But I think it was, I can't remember which month, but in the winter, the engineer requested, before they started to remove some of the asphalt and concrete from the area, that they could not do that over the winter, that they would need until spring. Well, we're at June and he hasn't, we said the continued dumping has continued. So it's just the blatant disregard. It's been hard. But I want to thank you all, and I know there's new board members that haven't heard this from the beginning, but we want to thank you for hearing us. So, thank you.
I can't see it right. I can't see it right, so I've got to go.
Okay, thank you, Lois. Is there anyone else that would like to speak? Okay. I'll ask for a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
I second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Meeting adjourned. Thank you, everyone.